All right, Governor, I got to start with the news of the day. You have some big decisions to make on a couple of bills, the voting bill as well as the marijuana bill. What's your thought process right now?
Well, I'm going to sign the marijuana/hemp bill. We've been trying to regulate this hyped up hemp for a long, long time, and so I'm thankful that the legislature is doing that. My concern has been with kids. We have kids who eat gummy bears, and the hemp, the people who have promoted this, hemp was originally designed, normal hemp is not very high in THC, by definition it's not. What they've done is they've taken a loophole in the law and they've used the hemp, and then they've juiced it up basically, and now it's it skirts the law with no regulation on advertising, and so this is finally they're doing that, so that's a good thing.
Last time you signed one of the voting bills, you said, this is it, we don't need any more of these. And the Secretary of State himself says there's not a problem with voting in Ohio. Are you going to sign that voting bill that would restrict mail-in voting?
Yeah, I've not decided yet. I'm really studying it. There's other aspects of the bill. But yes, I have thinking a lot about it. And as I said previously, we do run elections very well in Ohio. The reason we do is we have Democrats and Republicans at all levels, and they're looking at each other, and it works. It's a system that basically works, but no announcement yet today.
Are you leaning toward a veto?
Well, I'm not going to do leans today, so we'll see. I'll have more to talk about that.
You have been in office now for a very long time. You're going into your final year in office, and it is an election year. It's an election year that pits, some call him a new Republican, Vivek Ramaswamy, against Amy Acton. I'm going to ask you about both of them. You worked very closely with Amy Acton. They are labeling her Lockdown Amy. How do you assess her?
Well, I'll answer that, but let me first kind of set the stage, if I could. This is kind of my attitude as I go into the last year. So this is a countdown clock. And you can see how many, at this moment, as you and I are recording this, 395 days, 14 hours, 1 minute, and 11 seconds left. So I have a real sense of urgency. Jeb Bush gave me this. I think he gave it to all governors who go into their final term. And it says, basically finish strong. So I'm trying to finish strong. And the things that, we have started, that I want to make sure that we continue to push forward. The science of reading, for example, we need to continue to push forward on that. We need to make sure our universities, when they're teaching teachers how to teach reading, that they follow the science of reading. Another example, we're starting a new program just in a few days, and that is to get eyeglasses to kids and eye exams to kids who are not getting them. The law in Ohio provides that every kid in grade school has to be, quote, screened, but of those kids that red flag is, hey, you need to get an eye exam, only a third of them actually get the eye exam. So that's kind of my attitude as I go forward. Now, back to the campaign.
Back to the campaign. You worked with Amy Acton. Yes. They're labeling her Lockdown Amy. At the time, you two were getting praise around the country for leading the way on fighting COVID. How do you assess her and her chances?
Well, first of all, the decisions that were made during COVID, they were my decisions. So no one should blame someone else if they don't like it. The buck stops with me. I had sought a lot of advice. I got advice from her. I got advice from people around the country. So, I was trying to get as much information as I could about something that we did not know much about, and I made decisions based upon that. But they were my decisions. They were not her decisions.
But what do you think of Amy Acton as a potential gubernatorial candidate?
Well, I've said I'm going to endorse the Republican nominee. It would appear that Vivek Ramaswamy is going to be the nominee. I've not endorsed him yet. He and I actually have been sitting down a couple different times. We're going to do it more to talk about issues that frankly I care a lot about, and just kind of get to know him a little bit better and get to know, what his positions are on these issues.
There was certainly an appearance earlier this year when the party pushed through the endorsement of Ramaswamy, and you were the sitting governor, and you said, let's put the brakes on this, let's wait. Is that because you were hoping to see Jim Tressel in this position?
No, I just felt that it was very early at that point to make a decision, for the party to make a decision. But I didn't win on that, and the majority decided on that central committee, the people on that 50-some people on that central committee, the majority decided to endorse him, and I understand that.
You personally, though, would Tressel have been your choice?
Well, that's speculation. I can just tell you Jim Tressel is a great person. He's a great human being. For those viewers who have watched him throughout the years when he was coach and then 9 years as president of Youngstown State, I can just tell you, if you don't personally know him, what you see is what you get with Jim Tressel. This is an amazing leader. I've got him working on job readiness. He's doing something really exciting with kids. He's out there doing something that I asked him to do, which is have a physical fitness, but it's not just physical fitness, it's also about nutrition, it's about sleep. No better teacher, no better coach than Jim Tressel.
There were a lot of people who, on the county level especially, county Republicans that I was speaking with back then, who said they wanted Tressel. They fear some of the ideas coming from Vivek Ramaswamy, and they fear funding cuts to counties and local governments if he would become governor. Did you hear from them? Were they pressuring you to maybe push for Jim Tressel?
No, they weren't. But I think, when you understand how government really works in Ohio, and I suppose other states, but I just know Ohio, what happens at the local level is where the services are delivered. One of the things I'm proud of is we've more than doubled the amount of money going to local children's services in Ohio, because I know from my experience as a prosecutor that this is so vitally important. Lives are literally at stake. So I think part of understanding Ohio is knowing, yes, the state's important, but really where the services get delivered is locally, and what the state has to be is helpful. And again, that's just part of the process of understanding Ohio.
There's a new Emerson poll out that questioned voters on a number of issues. One of them was favorability for you and for President Trump. Your favorability numbers were low at 25%. You have had pushback from your own party in this Republican-led legislature. Every office holder in the state is led by Republicans. You won by 25 points in the most recent election. Why is it, do you think, that there's this separation between you and the leaders in the State House and Republicans around the state?
I don't know that there really is that separation. In getting your policies done, the most important thing is the budget, because that's where the money is, and that's how you determine public policy. If you go back and look at my budgets, now I've had 4 budgets, each one of those budgets I've gotten 98, 99% of what I wanted. Maybe not everything, but we've made historic investments in mental health. For the first time, if you have a family member, a child, a teenager who has a mental health problem, you can pick up the phone, call 988, and within 1 hour there'll be somebody sitting there who understands mental health to deal with that family crisis. That had never been done before. The science of reading, where we really focus on kids. All these things that we have done in regard to children, the legislature, I couldn't have done them unless the legislature would have said yes, and they said yes through the budget. So I know that it's interesting to talk about where the legislature and I and the leaders of the legislature and I may disagree. People disagree, but the things that really matter, the future of our children, for example, kids only have one chance to grow up, and so we got to get it right. In those areas, they back me, and I'm very, very happy about that.
How do you assess the good qualities? What are the qualities you want to see in the next governor?
I think the most important quality for any public official is to be a good listener. You have to listen. There's always people out there who know more than you do about a particular issue. You have to understand the problems that exist. You have to travel the state and hear from people. That's, to me, the most important quality, is a good listener, someone who takes in that information, and then they make their own decision, and they make the decision which they think is best. But I think pulling all that information is pretty important.
How do you qualify or characterize Vivek Ramaswamy?
Look, I'm not going to get into that at this point. I'm just getting to know him better. As I've said, and this to me is important, I've sat down with him now 3 times, and we've just talked, and we talked about issues, and we talked about Ohio and what makes Ohio unique as a state, what makes Ohio great as a state. Those have been good conversations, but that is a continuing process, and I'm trying to learn exactly where he is. I hope I can help him understand, some of the issues. Nobody, unless they've sat in this office, where I have been now for 7 years, can fully understand the gravity of the decisions that are made, or all the things you have to take into consideration. So I'm trying to help him understand those things just as I would help anybody. And I think those have been good conversations, and they're going to continue. We will continue to have these conversations. I've said already, I will support the Republican. I'm a Republican. I'm a conservative Republican. I will support the Republican nominee for governor. But I'm continuing to get to know him, and we've had good conversations, and I've been happy with the conversation.
The Republican Party of today is being characterized as very different from the mainline, old school Republican Party. Ronald Reagan, they say, wouldn't recognize the Republican Party today. It has changed significantly since you took office 7 years ago. Do you think your party has moved in the right direction? Is this the party that you want it to be?
Well, I'm a Reagan Republican. Before that, when I was in high school, my wife Fran and I going to Yellow Springs High School, pretty liberal community. There's 7 of us, and we were for Barry Goldwater. So look, my conservative roots go way back. I'm a Reagan Republican. But parties evolve, parties change. We only have 2 real parties in this country that are significant, and so by that very nature, they're both going to continue to evolve. My job, I think, is to try to talk about what the facts are. My job is to try to, as governor, is to try to solve problems. My job as a member of the Republican Party is to articulate what I think is the right vision. Immigration, is an issue today. I think that this is a great opportunity in this country. Now that, and I'll give him a great deal of credit, President Trump has really got control of the southern border. I think that failure in the past has stopped us from having a good, rational discussion about who really should come into this country. I think it's time we should take this as a party as an opportunity to look at a real legal immigration bill. For example, just give you one example. We have college students coming in here from out of the country, and we educate them. And then our laws many times don't allow them to stay in the country and to contribute economically with all that knowledge that they have. We need a policy, immigration policy, a legal immigration policy that is favorable to the United States, which means it takes in people who can be of great help to us. We also have to remember that we have historically been a compassionate country, and if we have refugees, we do allow certainly some of them to come into this country. I think it's time to have that debate.
President Trump made extremely disparaging comments about the people of Somalia and the Somalian immigrants in this country. Ohio has the 2nd largest Somali immigration, the Somali community in the nation. What did you think when you heard those comments? Do you admire Donald Trump?
Well, look, we have a significant Somali population, and what we want from them is what we want from anybody who comes into this country. We want them to come in and work. We want them to support their family. I remember what my friend Phil Graham, one time we were in his Republican senator from Texas, he was on the Senate floor, and he said, look, we always have room in this country for people who want to pull the wagon, help pull the wagon. We don't have room for people who just want to kind of ride. So, you know, we have people in this community right here in Columbus who are working very, very hard. They're Somalians. They're raising their families. What we also want from people when they come into this country is for them to, we don't care what they look like, we don't care what food they eat. What we really care about is, do they share our values? First Amendment, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, respect our republic, respect the law. That's really what we ask of people, and that's, to me, is the criteria by which we judge people when they come into this country.
I'm getting a time signal, but I have a couple more areas. I'm just going to keep
Yeah,
you a
keep
few
going.
more minutes that I want to talk to you about. You made the decision to send troops, send National Guard to Washington, D.C. President Trump has made a show of saying the Democrat-run cities are overrun, and he's sending troops in when they don't want them. Some say they need them, but a lot of these cities are saying, well, you're only picking on Democrat-run cities. Were you part of his rhetoric, part of the play that he was trying to put on for the American people about the need for him to take control in cities when he's not invited?
Let me just make a distinction. The distinction between the capital city, which whether the mayor likes it or local officials like it, ultimately the responsibility rests with the federal government. Ultimately the responsibility rests with the commander-in-chief. So we, at the request of the Secretary of the Army, we sent in 150 members of the Ohio National Guard. When I went out there and met with our Guards members out there, the head of the DC National Guard, who was in charge of all that, came to me and said, thank you for doing that, because the mission that we have here, we can't do without some outside help. If we didn't have outside help, we would have, our people would be working very extremely long hours. So I make a great distinction between the national city, the national capital, Washington, D.C. Now, I've had the question asked, you didn't ask it today, but you sort of inferred it. What about Ohio cities? What if, should we send National Guard into Ohio cities? My answer is, if the problem we're trying to get at is some natural disaster, yes. We have sent Guard members into cities and rural areas, and we will do that again. The National Guard is very, very well equipped to do that. Well, a few years ago, we had them down in southern Ohio. They had a horrible ice storm, and they brought in equipment. So there's a great need for the National Guard. But if the issue that you're trying to deal with is violent crime, then that's a police, they have the best expertise. And so what we've developed in this state, and we've sent into every major city, I think, in this state, are Ohio State Highway Patrol, who are law enforcement, who have helicopter, who have other assets, intelligence assets, and they work with the local police department, hand in glove, and we get violent criminals off the street. So it's depending on what you're trying to accomplish. If you're trying to get at violent repeat offenders, we send not the Guard, we send the Highway Patrol in. If we're dealing with a natural disaster, then we're going to use another tool, and that will be the National Guard. That's how I distinguish it as governor of the state.
Ohio State University has spent more than $20 million already in legal fees in the Strauss scandal. I don't know, I'm trying to find out how much has been paid through the Attorney General's office to these attorneys in the case. The men who are victims are saying the state is they victimized us at the university, they ignored our problem. We now know, coaches knew, administrators knew, at the highest levels of the university, people knew about what this man had done. Do you have any influence, or are you trying to get the university to maybe come to the end of the road here?
Well, I think everybody would like to see us get to the end of the road. We also have to be understanding that for the victims, there is no end of the road. That we can't take what happened away, but we obviously need to be compassionate, and we need to compensate them. Beyond that, I've not got involved in the intricacies of that, but it's a horrible, horrible tragedy, and transparency is very important here, and to know exactly who did what. All
right, I know I'm out of time, but I do want to ask you, as I do every year, What is your holiday message to the people of Ohio as we are heading into the final year of the DeWine administration?
We have a great state. We're on the move. We've been rated #1 in the Midwest and about the ability to create jobs and the climate that we have. We're 5th in the whole nation. Our best days are ahead of us. But the most important thing we can do, frankly, is to focus on the education of our own people, particularly our kids. And reading is absolutely the most essential thing. We have to stay focused on that. We're doing that. Kids only have one chance to grow up. When you think about it, it's a very finite period of time. And we better do the things that we need to do to allow them to live up to their God-given potential. And we have some programs and we have some things. We're on the right track, but we got to keep moving.
When they characterize your administration and your term in this office, what do you hope people say about the DeWine administration?
Well, I'm not very good at philosophy or trying to say what will people say about me. I mean, my job is to do the best I can every single day. I guess if I had to pick one thing, I hope that people will say he was doing things every day to try to live up to what he said, and that is that our goal is for every child to be able to live up to their full God-given potential and every adult to be able to do that as well. It seems to me that's the most important thing we can do every day.
Thank you for your time, Governor.
Good to be with you, Colleen. Thank you.